Okay, we're going to start at the Mishnah on Samach Zayin 67a. Thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. And as opposed to learning, we should have this in English immediately. We're learning Lili Nishmas Avigdal Basra Daf, the sons have been Sion, and the first name of Avin David ben Sarah, and Gedalia Getzel has been taken to her. Everyone else needs her first name. Okay. The Mishnah says like this: someone sells a courtyard. So machar batim, he sells together with the courtyard, the houses that are in the courtyard, virus, the pits, sich and virus, other types of pits, wells, and caves that have water in them. Avalayas metalcum, it doesn't sell the movable household items. Now, this seems to is a little different than what we learned before. Before we said someone sells a house, he doesn't sell the pits and all of this. Here we say we sell the courtyard, you do. So apparently the way it works is that when you sell a house, you're only selling the house. You're limiting it to that house. You don't sell the pit, the water system together with the house. But when you're selling a larger area, courtyard, which contains houses, so in that it also contains the water. So when you're selling a larger area, then those items that weren't included in the specifics now get included. Bisman Shamalai, if he says, by the way, the Rashbam, no, 1 second. Bisman Shamalai, if he says the courtyard and everything that's in it, then everything is sold, even the movable items, even the utensils that are from the house. See what we're holding? 67? 67a. Yeah, so the kulan mechurin, everything is sold. That means all household utensils are sold. However, the Rashbam points out that he doesn't sell the grain, the wheat, and the barley. If you would have that in the house, that's not included in the sale, even though it's in the house at the time of the sale. No, it's in the house at the time of the sale, then it would be included. Anything that's in the property would be included. Talking about where why would it not be included if it's on the property? Yeah, but when you buy property, everything that's on it, the rule is that it's acquired with. I guess it's considered that it's designated not to be acquired because there was no intention to sell this, right? What do you mean?
In the house, you wouldn't acquire like anything that wasn't the house.
In the house, you won't acquire anything that's the house. The courtyards, you don't acquire anything that's not the courtyard. But and in the house, yeah. Question is why are these things not acquired? I guess it's as if the person said, I'm only selling this and not that. If he wanted to sell that, then he doesn't need to make an extra kinyan on the movable items that are in the house. So that must be how it works. It's only when you wanted to acquire more than that. Okay. Here's the question. You buy a house. In the house is one of the rooms in the closet is a box of Legos and other toys. You have to tell the owner that he left it and it wasn't part of the sale, or is it automatically part of the sale? Anything that's in the house is part of the sale.
There, it might be that the owner also did look at it. You see that all the time. People leave trash behind. Whatever they consider trash.
It would be something that he probably wouldn't have given up on. Has his name on it.
Still give up on it. Said it's too heavy to move. Try to sell it to
So
you.
you see, it was packed in a box. They forgot it. Do you acquire it automatically because you bought the house? And anything that's in the house is acquired.
Is this argument about what is Minhag Medina?
Well, that's another question. What is the Minhag Medina? Minhag Medina is to keep it, I'm sure. Yeah. Here we're saying clearly that when someone sells a courtyard, he doesn't sell the metaltlin, unless he says, I'm selling you everything that's in it. And then even when he says, I'm selling you everything that's in it, he still doesn't sell the wheat and the barley that's in it. So here it's over here it's much more specific about what gets sold along. Okay. Benkach or benkach, whatever the case is, he doesn't sell along with it the bathhouse, doesn't sell the olive press shabasecha that's in it. Rabbi Lezer says no. If someone, Rabbi Eliezer argues on the whole thing. He says if someone sells a courtyard, he's only selling the air of the courtyard. The courtyard is just for relaxation. You go into the courtyard, you sit over there, you get to breathe the air, you get to enjoy the breeze, but you don't buy all the houses and all of that just from purchasing the courtyard. Now the obvious question is, well, let's look at how much he paid. If he paid a large amount of money, then he probably bought the houses also. If he paid less, then he only bought the courtyard. We can tell by the money. The answer to that is that they know that when it comes to real estate, any price is acceptable, and the money itself can't tell us that's not going to be a deciding factor. Yeah, let's see the Gemara. Taner Rabbana was taught in the Brisa. Gemara quotes this Brisa. Meicher sachatzer. Someone sells a courtyard. Macher batem machitzainim batem apnimim. Ubeis hachol sais. Chanuyes psuches l'seicha. Sells the courtyard. He also sells with it the outer houses, the inner houses. That means the outer houses would mean the houses, the rooms that open up into the courtyard. Batim apnim would mean the rooms that open up into the outer rooms. Right? We said that some rooms you have to walk through them to get to the next one. Beis hachol sais is either an area of rock, or it's an area of where they get sand to make glass. Is there an English word for that area? Sand fields. A sand field. And glass back then. And they could get different colors. Remember the Gemara spoke about white glass was like more expensive. Yeah, Gemara above or something. Okay, and chanuyas psuchas l'seicha. Also, if there was stores that were open into it, this would be maybe like a canteen or something that was part of that courtyard. There was a store that was open into it, that would be sold together with the courtyard. The same psuchas l'seicha, if it doesn't open up into it, in other words, it was maybe part of the wall, like at the wall of the courtyard, you would open up to the outside, so people walking by on the outside would purchase from it. If that's the case, then inim karsim, and that's not sold together with the courtyard. Let's say it opens both ways. He's supposed to adjust this to Harei Elu and Karasima. Behold, these are sold together with the courtyard. Rabbi Lezer says no. If someone sells the courtyard, he only selling. What's Rabbi Lezer's opinion? Only selling the ear. He switches the word over here. Before we said avira, and now he says milusa. It's the same thing. It's the ear. The ear of the courtyard. Okay. Amar Mar, the master taught. This was going back to explain a brisa that we quoted. In passing, we go back to explain it by introducing the word Amar Mar. That's the introductory. Go back to analyze it. Psuchis lakan lakan. If it's open both to the inside of the courtyard and to the outside of the courtyard, nimkarasim sold together with the courtyard. But Tani Rab Chia, but Rab Chia taught in a brisa, einim karasim, that it's not sold together with the courtyard. The Gemara says like kasha. It's not a contradiction. Because hadarev tashmishayu legav, hadarev tashmishayu lebar. It depends. If most of its function is to sell for people of the courtyard, then it is sold together with the courtyard. If most of its function is for outside the courtyard, then it's not sold together with the courtyard. It's just considered, it's a store that's in the courtyard, but it's not meant to be part of the courtyard. It just happens to be that it sells also to the courtyard. Sometimes yeshivas have like these catering things, things because they have a big kitchen in the yeshiva. So there's sometimes most of what they do is for outside, and sometimes most of what they do is for inside yeshiva, and they just happen to cater a little bit on the side. Sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes most of the business is the catering business, and the yeshiva is just like something quick, just like that. What are you thinking about? The brisa. When we quote a brisa, when we reanalyze a brisa, we say Amar Ma, the master taught, referring to the author of the brisa. Yeah, it could be whoever it is. Yeah, okay. So depending on that, that would be if it would be sold together with the courtyard or not. Okay. Rabbi Lezer says, Lezer says he only sold the airspace of the courtyard. Amar Rabba. Is this Rabba? Rava. The Meseres Shas adjusted to Rava. Rava says, Ida Amali Dirsa Dirasa the Kulyamla Pliga the Bati Mashma. Okay, you got to give me the English words here. What's happening is a chatzar means a courtyard, but in Aramaic, the term for courtyard could be dirsa or it could be darta, and it means chatzar, it means a courtyard. But because in translation, the term courtyard could mean it's also like dwelling. Dirsa means dwelling. It means a courtyard, but it also means dwelling. So if the person says that I'm selling you this dwelling, then everyone agrees the bati mashma. Even Rabbi Eliezer that holds that you don't sell the houses, he would say that no, you do sell the house here because he said the dwellings, and the dwellings are clearly the houses. Selling you this dwelling. So keep ligi, but where would the machlekes be? Damalei darta. He says darta. No, what is darta? Did they translate that? Darta also means a dwelling, but for some reason, it's a translation of a courtyard. Darta is more specific courtyard. How did they translate dirta? Courtyard. And the one before it was
Dirsa is resident.
Resident. So dirsa is residence and darta is courtyard. Okay. If he says darta, so then that's going to be the machlekes. Mar Sava, Rabbi Lezer holds tarbitza mashma means the open area, just the airspace, and Mar Sava bati mashma, and the Rabbanan would hold that it means the houses. Machlekes about the language. He uses that language. What did he mean to sell? Yeah, miscommunication. He didn't spell it out. Okay. Ikadamri, there's another version to this saying of Rava. Amar Rava, it says Brava, but we adjust it to Rava. Rava says, Ida Malay Darta, if he says courtyard in Aramaic, the Kuli Amalay Pliki Debati Mashma. Everyone agrees that that means houses. So for some reason, that word actually means residence. Even though we said Dirsa meant the residence in the last Gemara. Here we're saying Darta means residence. Kipligi, where's the machlekes damalei chatzar? In other words, if he uses the Aramaic word for courtyard, and the Aramaic word for courtyard includes residence. Only if he uses the Hebrew word for courtyard, over there, there's a machlekes where Rabbi Eliezer says that maybe it doesn't include the courtyard. Kipligi damalei chatzar, marsav chatzar avir mashma. Rabbi Eliezer holds that chatzar means just the airspace, and marsavar kechatzar hamishkan. And the Rabbanon hold that it's like the Chatzar HaMishkan. Now, the Chatzar HaMishkan, the courtyard of the tabernacle, included also in it was 100 amas by 50 amas. And in that 100 amas was also the Heichal and the Kodesh HaKadoshim, and everything was in that. So you see, even the house was included in that Chatzar HaMishkan, in that courtyard. It's part of that space. So if that's the case, so then when he says he's selling a chatzar, he means the houses also. Yeah. Yeah.
Usually they buy a house or I'll sell you this house. Right. But then when you're gonna buy the big field of land, or I have a 10-acre farm, and then there you have barn, house,
Right. 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 Everything goes along with it when it's in a larger area. Yeah. Apparently Rabbi Avram Abulafia, the Kabbalist, he held that language. All languages evolves from Hebrew. The original language is Hebrew, and then as it gets translated, you're like unfolding it. So you're getting contained in the Hebrew has all the meanings. But when you switch it in, when you translate it into another language, you get a slightly different meaning. Each language adjusts it just a little bit. If you would know all the languages together, then you would really understand the Hebrew, because the Hebrew contains all of those meanings. Yeah. What does this mean over here with chatzar and dirta and darta and all of this? This version of the Gemara, this is saying that chatzar is a machlekes what it means. But once you translate it into Aramaic and you say darta, and everyone agrees it means the houses as well. Yeah. In Aramaic, it means houses also. In Hebrew, it's a machlekes.
has
Hebrews machlokes?
Yeah.
Really?
Chatzar. Chatzar is a machlekes if it means courtyard or it means courtyard and houses.
Some agencies might have a right of a certain land on your land. Same about the land, but you say I can't put anything on it. It belongs to the, what do they call it when FBL has an area, the corridor that they have a line in.
Easement?
Easement.
I don't know.
So it's my land, but I can't really do anything
Right.
on it.
Right. Okay. Amar Rava. Amar Rav Nachman. Rava says name Rav Nachman. Machalei chulsis u'metzula. Let's say he sells him. The chulsis we said in the Mishnah was the sand pit, and the metzula is an area where two interpretations. Either it's a mining area for precious metals, gold and silver, or it's a fish pond. He sells in these two areas. So the rule is hichzik b'chulsis. If he makes a chazaka on the sand pit, which the sand pit is used to make glass, like kana mitzula. So he didn't acquire the that the land for the mining for the precious metals, the mine. But if you make, sorry, a riverbed.
Yeah, but he says from which precious
Yeah,
metals.
riverbed that you take precious metals out of, right? Yeah. So, is that what it says? Riverbed that they get precious metals from? Okay. Says it doesn't matter which way it goes. If you make acquisition in one, you don't acquire the other one. Aini, is that really so? We learned the opposite. Amar Shmuel says Machal, yes, so the special Medina is that if someone sells 10 fields in 10 different countries, once he makes a chazak, once he makes a kinyan in one of those fields, he acquired all of them. Over here we're saying you acquire the sand pit, you don't acquire the fish pond or the quarry, whatever it is. So the Gemara says Hasam with the sadna the arachadu v'kulachad tashmishtu aval hacha hatashmish l'chad v'tashmish l'chad. What we do is we say when we're just dealing with fields, like fields for plowing, we say that the crust of the earth, the tectonic plates, are all one. We say, and so when he makes acquisition in this one, it's attached to that one, and he acquires the whole thing because it's one function. But because over here it's different functions, even though it's attached, but it's different functions. So acquiring one doesn't acquire the other one. This one is made for sand. This one is made to take out the precious metals, but maybe just for fish or whatever it is, because it's a very different function. So then you don't acquire one by acquiring the other. Okay, Ikadamri. There are those that say, the Rashbam on the bottom is asked the question that we asked before when we learned this Gemara, the previous Gemara that Amar Shmuel, what the was that? We had it earlier. It's funny, they're not quoting it over here. 65b. No. Where do we have the Nechse Ager? And that was in Cheskas Sabatim. Yeah. No, by the Nechse Ager. By the Nechse Ager, when you're acquiring from the convert that passed away. Yeah, we had it before on like 53. Oh, very good. The Rashbam says, very good. The Rashbam says that over there, when you're acquiring Nechse Ager, so you have to make a kinyan in every single piece of property. Even though, let's say it has 10 fields, you acquired one, it doesn't mean you acquired the other one. But over here, because the way he puts it here is a little different than the way we understood it there. The way he puts it here is that because he's giving money, he's going to acquire them all. He's acquiring corresponding to the money. But there we learned that because there was someone that was transferring the land, that made the difference. When you're taking it without anyone transferring it to you, that's the way we understood it before. Here it's coming out a little different. The Rashbam is explaining it a little different. Because you gave the money, so you're going to acquire all of those fields corresponding to the money that you gave, even though you only made an acquisition in one of them. If the function of all those fields is the same. That's the criteria that's coming out of this. Okay.
If it's a river that goes through, I buy a field as river, I acquire the river. I can do what I want with the river. Or is it some notion that that's not?
We had a discussion about if the river belongs also to the people down below.
It's going to affect them.
Yeah.
Sure.
and there was a problem with moving it. They can have a claim to that water. Okay,
This
so
happens all the time. It's a big case, Florida. They mine the area that they acquired and messes up the whole watershed because the mining
it changes the flow.
yeah, or it poisons the water that goes down. So I get poisoned water down there, or it disappears totally. Use all that water, they'll process the ore.
Wow. Wow.
This is a real case.
Yeah. Ikadamri, there are those that say, Amar Rava, Amar Rav Nachman, Hichsik B'chol Titkana Mitzvah. Exactly the opposite. If you acquire the sand field, you also acquire the quarry. Umar says, Pshita, that's obvious. The Amar Shmuel, Machle Asasad, you can never get out of this. Whatever you say, there's going to be a problem. If you say that you don't acquire it, then you say, Shmuel says differently. If you say, according to the Ikadamri, say that you do acquire it and it fits perfectly with Shmuel, you think the Gemara would be satisfied. But no, the Gemara says, that's obvious. Why do you need to tell that to me? Shmuel says exactly the same thing. Amar Shmuel, Machle Asad is Chulu. So tell me a Chiddush. The Gemara says, Mao, the Taima, no, there is a Chiddush. I could have said, Hasim with the Sadan Dara, who, Abal Hacha, Tashmish Lachad, Vatashmish Lachad. Over there, it's just one stretch of land, even though it's not in the same place, but it's one earth. So, but over here they have different functions. So Kamash Malana comes to tell me that the same halach would apply, that you acquire both. By making a chazak in one, you acquire the other one. Okay, we're on Samach Zayin Amid Beis by the Mishnah, the arm for the Russian army. Yeah, in the yeshiva we say that in the Russian army, so they would make the people run. They would have to jog, and if they would get very tired. They would fall asleep while they were running. So some people were actually sleeping. They were running while they're sleeping. So the only way to tell who was asleep, who was awake, was when they turned. Anyway, so that's it's so when we turn the page in the Gemara. Okay, someone sells an olive press. So machares hayam. What's the yam? The yam is, the Gemara is going to tell us, is a some sort of round container. It's called a lentil. The Brisa calls it a lentil. We'll see in the Gemara. So you're selling the olive press, and you're getting together with it the different parts of the olive press. That's a mammal. Mammal, the Gemara is going to tell us, is the crusher. Besa basula, also the basula. There's Avesa basulas. The Gemara is going to tell us those are cedar beams, which the larger beam is on, which may be a track that allows the beam to get moved up and down to press the crushed olives. Avaloi machar esa avirim, but he doesn't sell the avirim. These are other parts of the olive press that are movable. These are pressers. Probably what's the when you have a mortar and a pestle, which part is the mortar? The bowl or the stick?
I think it's the bottom.
The bottom is the mortar, and the pestle is the pestle is the thing.
Hammer.
So this may be the pestle. That's a galgal, and the galgal, which the Gemara is going to say is a weight that's used to weigh down the beam to press it harder. The sakaira is the beam itself. So here we're saying, interesting, that you don't sell the beam. The beam of the olive press, which is the thing that weighs down on the olives. Oh, beautiful! Look at this, a picture. Just doesn't tell us what everything is. There is a picture here.
They forgot the
It just doesn't do much for you, but it's good to see. I guess what you're seeing there is that underneath the beam are other pieces of wood, which that's the Gemara is going to discuss.
Oh,
Like otherwise, it would just press the center; it would press it unevenly. So you put those other pieces of wood that the beam pushes down to make it. Okay. So Bisman Shamalai, if he tells him, I'm selling you everything, the olive press and everything that's in it, all the equipment, then everything is sold. Rabbi Eliezer says that of course you sell the beam. Interesting, because Rabbi Eliezer before said when you sold the courtyard, you only sold the courtyard, you didn't sell the houses. So it looked like he was being strict on the purchaser. Purchaser's not getting much. Over here, it's the opposite. Over here, he's giving the purchaser beam along with the olive press. Yeah, he's saying that the whole olive press is the beam. You need that beam. If not for that, then there's no olive press. So it's obviously part of it. It's like selling a car without the engine. Now the Gemara explains yam. When we said in the Mishnah that you sold the yam literally means a sea. What does it mean? Talfacha. It's talking about the lentil. And the lentil is that they put the olives in. Mammal. It says that you sell the mammal together with it. What do we say the mammal was? We're just going to say it over here. Amar Rababa bar mammal. Rababa bar mammal says that's almost like a joke. That the Rababa bar mammal is explaining what mammal means. He says mefarchata. It says it's the crusher. Yeah. Yeah. That book from Bruvin Margolius about the names in the Gemara, where you have some people that they're only mentioned once, and their name happens to correspond to the saying that they have. Yeah, this one fits with this because Rababa bar mammal is very common. Yeah. It's the crusher. What are the besulei? Some Rabbi Yochanan says, these are these planks of wood, of cedar wood.
Why is that his name?
Yeah, I don't know. Rababa, the son of the crusher. Maybe he was a crusher. Maybe that's was his job. The olive press. That you that it holds the big beam. That's the basilis. Okay, now avirim. This is what's not sold. Avirim are kivsei, are the pressers. What are these? These are boards that are put on top of the olives, and that was what you saw in the picture. There were these boards that were on top of the olives. When they turn it and they lower the beam down, it presses on those boards. Those boards are the ones that are directly pressing the olives. But the only thing is those boards are removable. There's little pieces of wood that they put there. Those could be exchanged. That's not from the press itself. Those are just pieces of wood that they put there. So those are not sold together with it. In Galgal, the weight is chumarta, it's the weight. Actually, the Rashbam doesn't say that. Rashbam says not that it's the weight. The Rashbam says that it's like a wheel that's used to raise it and lower it. So where do I get the weight from?
be both.
1 second. I want to see where I got that from. Okay. Kaira is obviously the Kaira. It's the beam itself. So in other words, the Hebrew word is the same as the Babylonian word. Tanarabanan was taught in a brayso mecha beisabad. Someone sells an olive press, machas and nasarim, sells together with the boards. What do the boards do? These are not the little pieces of wood, the Rashbam points out. It's not the little piece of wood that are put on top of the olives, because that we said was not sold. These are boards that are established there. This may be nitzarin, and it's the thing that holds the olives in place. That's the yakavim. They also sell the yekev, which that we said that the yekev is the mammal, which is the mefarchata, which is the crusher. Yes, I'm sorry. Yakavim is the lentil. That's mefarches, that's the mammal, that's the crusher. Veserichayim, after you crush the olives by pressing them, then you grind them. Veserichayim, you also have a grinder. The Mishnah in Menachos that talks about the different olives that's kosher for the menorah and this and that, goes to the different stages of how the olive oil is made. So first it's crushed and then it's ground, and then they get a second oil out of when it's ground. Maybe a third oil. It's the first that just drips out, and then there was the crushed it. Right?
So it's the same thing today.
Probably. Today, I understand that all of our olive oil is really from China, and they ship it to Italy, and they write on it "product of Italy," and then we buy it. Yeah, that's what I understand. So, everything is it's the same thing as everything. Okay, no chiddush. Okay, Rechaim Atachtenes, the lower millstone was always heavier, and that was more stationary. But not the upper millstone. But if he says, I'm selling everything, then everything is sold with it. Whatever the case is, he's not selling those pieces of wood, and not the sacks, and not the things of leather. Sacks of leather sacks. They're either like woolen sacks or leather sacks. Rabbi Lezer says, you're selling an olive press, and you're selling along with it also the beam. The whole reason why it's called a press is because of the beam. You can't not have the beam. That's like not having the engine in the car. Okay. Someone sells a bathhouse. He doesn't sell the wooden planks that are on the floor. See, the way they would do the bathhouses back then was that they would actually make the stones. They would actually have they would heat the stones from underneath. It would be like hanging. They would go underneath the stones, and they would put fire. They would make a fire under the stones, and would heat it up from the bottom. So the Gemara says not to use the bathhouse the first time that they're heating it, because it could burst, it could fall in, it could crack. You don't want to be the first guy in there. But what happened is the stones would get very hot, so you couldn't walk on the floor. So they would put wood down so you could step on it. So that wood is not sold together with the bathhouse. Yeah, it's like today we have the rubber on the floor in the mikveh. That's you don't slip. But that wouldn't be sold with. Vesa safalim, these are basins. This is how they take water out if they're going to be washing outside the actual tub. Vesa balanias. Balanias could be either curtains, which were used in front of the doorways, so that would be more modest, or they're towels. It's a question how to read the word. If it's vilain, then it's a curtain. If it's balon, then it's a towel. Vilain with a vav, balon with a base. So depending on the word, it's two versions to this. Bisman Shamalai, if he says that I'm selling the bathhouse and everything that's in it, then it's all sold. Whatever the case is, he's not selling the tanks of water, and he's also not selling the wood that's used to heat the fire, because that is not strictly for the bathhouse. that could be used in your own house as well. It's just wood. It happens to be it's sitting outside the bathhouse. And that's what you use it for, but that doesn't mean that it's part of the bathhouse. That's that has other functions as well. Yeah, today people sell businesses. Like someone can sell a restaurant. He sells his business. So it probably comes with the equipment. I assume when they sell it, it probably comes with the pizza oven and the whatever. I don't know. No, it doesn't come with it. You have to pay for that separately. The selling the business just is like the name and the what's it?
Unless they say, oh, like full package, they'll sell you the name and all the equipment. But,
Wow.
and some businesses don't even own the equipment.
Wow. Well, there was a store, which is now Cafe Bert. It's in Surfside. It used to be called Holy Bagel, and
It's not there anymore.
it's the same thing. It was a breakfast place, and it was owned by a guy, Ruven. Anyway, he gave a discount to the Kyle guys going back 20-something years, 20 half price. It was the Kyle in Surfside, so if you would eat there, it charges half price. And he sold the business. Remember, one of the Kyle guys went in and said he wants to buy the business for half price. Okay. Taner Rabbanan.
So dentist, for example, a doctor sells a practice,
Right,
he sells the clientele.
right. That's what he's selling. He's really selling his clientele. It's a big deal.
Is that included in this Mishnah? People that go to the vet. Right.
Doesn't say, it doesn't mention this. I don't know if they understood that sort of like information, part of the business. Taner Rabbanan was taught in the Brayso Meiches HaMerchatz. Someone sells a bathhouse. Machar is based on the sarim. You sell the house that stores the wood, but this is not actually the wood that's used for heating. This is the wood that's used for on top of the floor. This is like the closet that holds those boards that you put the wood down to walk on, the planks they walk on because the floor gets very hot. The space hayikmin, and this is possibly the place where they keep the towels. Some say it's the place where they keep the barrels of hot water. Turbans, towels. The space has fallen. Where are we holding? They say you can base has fallen. Is some say this is the benches, the place where they keep the benches. The space of Elias, this would be either the curtains or the place where they store the towels. Okay, so very good. So then Yikmin would have to be turbans specifically, not towels. But he doesn't sell the boards itself, like we learned in the Mishnah. He doesn't sell the turbans themselves. He doesn't sell the basins themselves. Not the curtains or the towels. Here it's curtains. But if he says I'm selling you as is, everything that's in it, then he sold everything, whatever the case is. He doesn't sell the reservoir of water that's used to hold the water in the summer and in the winter. In the summer they didn't have a lot of water, so they would have to have these reservoirs. It also doesn't sell the place where he stores the woodshed. If he says I'm selling you the bathhouse and all its utensils, everything that's all on the whole thing, everything that's goes along with it, and then he sold everything. Now we have a little story. There was a person that said to his friend, I'm selling to you a bathhouse and everything that's in it, all its utensils. there was a little store outside that they would spread out. This is not a bathhouse. This is a press, an olive press. We switched from bathhouse to olive press. They would spread out sesame seeds there that they would use. They would when they would dry the sesame seeds and then they would crush it and make sesame oil. So this was a store. I guess on the store was used to sell bread and wine, and I guess on the top of it they would spread the sesame seeds. Also, the coming to Rabbi Yosef comes to Rabbi Yosef. He says he wants the store that comes along with it. How come the guy's not giving me the store? The store is used to spread the the sesame seeds. It should come along with it. Abaya says, so Rabbi Yosef paskin that it should go along with it. Abaya says, Rabbi Chia said the opposite. Rabbi Chia said it's not all sold with it. Ravashi explains, Chazinon, we have to take a look. If he added in, and these are the borders, remember, if you add in, these are the borders, then you add in that phrase, that extra phrase, then it's telling you that you're selling everything that's in it. So you didn't need to add that in. But if you don't add in those words, then you don't acquire the store that's coming that's in that area. You didn't say Vilam Mitzrani. Yeah, in Eretz Yisrael, when you go to the mikveh Erev Shabbos, so there's a little store outside where you can buy kugel and grape juice and flowers or something. They have like what you need for Shabbos is everyone that walks out. You have to pass by this Yerushalmi kugel and potato kugel. If the store is sold together with the
not the kugel.
No, not the kugel of the store. Okay. Hamaycher Sa'ir. Now we're getting it to a large. This is a massive sale. It's a big sale. It's not a house. It's not a courtyard. Someone's selling an entire city. Did we have in America people that owned whole cities? Like Las Vegas or something owned?
Yeah. Like Ford would build a factory. He'd also build a town for the workers for his factory. He owned the town.
It's like Detroit or something. Where was Ford?
Yeah, in that area.
Dearborn. Okay. I will show you that book that I have, The Terrible Jews.
Terrible Jews?
Something like that. It was a response to Henry Ford. It was like letters or something. It was, the subtitle was, and I'm one of them. Terrible, and I'm one of them. Then it was, anyway, okay. If someone sells the whole city, Machar Batim, he sells the houses in the city, virus the pits in the city. As we learned before, that when the area is larger, then you're selling more and more things that are in it. Virus the pits, the sichen, virus merchatzois. You're selling the bathhouses. You're also selling the bird houses. Beis Habadim, you're selling the olive presses. Beis Hashlachim. Beis Hashlachim seems to be the fields, right? Irrigated fields. But you don't sell the movable objects that are in the city.
It's not a reference to Chabad.
If he says I'm selling everything that's in it, and even if there's animals and slaves, animals and slaves are sold together with the city. If you sell the city, he also sells the center. Doesn't mean the center. Center means, the Gemara is going to say, it means the person that it's going to be a machlekes. It means the surveyor, when the person that knows all of it's a slave, that he knows where everyone's land ends, or possibly it means the fields. And then we have a question that 1 second. We said already that he sold the field. The Gemara will discuss it. Shamet Mina, we see from this that if a person doesn't sell specifically, he doesn't say, I'm selling everything that's in it, then he didn't sell the slaves. We see from this that Abda Kimetaltala, that slaves are considered movable objects. Abda Kimetaltala Dami. If slaves are considered land, which halachically slaves are considered land, because when it comes to a lot of halachas, for example, you don't take an oath on land. If you deny land, you don't take an oath. You also don't take an oath if you deny a slave whose property the slave is. So for certain things, the slave is considered land in halacha. They were saying that no, the slave is considered like movable property. Then why wasn't the slave sold together with the property? So the Gemara says, so what do you want to say? That the slave is considered movable property? So then maya filu. Then why do we have to say you sold even the slave? It says if you sell everything that's in it, then you sold then you even sold the animals in the slave. What do you mean even? What do you want to say? Shani be metaltal denied, metaltal denied. The fact that you said even is because you want to differentiate between if the movable objects are movable on their own, if they move around, or if they don't move around. So even if it's movable, but that doesn't mean that it moves on its own. That means that you could move it, right? You could take it from one place to another. You put it in a box and you move it. But over here we're talking about that they actually move around. So even for movable objects, the slave is different. So if that's the case, then I feel the dami. And even if you say that it's land, shani ben makarka denai makarka delenai, you can differentiate between land that moves and land that doesn't move. Let's say that even though it's considered land, but land that moves is not sold together with the city.
Yes, land usually moves. Is there any other case for land?
I don't think so.
In a river, you can have an island that sand moves.
Right. My center, I'm sorry, Shimon center. Center. Shimon Gamliel says, sell a city, you sell also the center. My center, what is the center? Here it's translated Bar Machvanisa, the surveyor. Is that how they translate it there? Town clerk. He's the person that knows where the end of every property is. Shimon ben of Tulmus, Omer, he says Bagi, it means fields. Now we have to follow what's going on here. Man da Amar Bar Machvanisa, the person that says that you sell the surveyor, the town clerk together, which the town clerk means a slave, that he comes along with the city when you sell the city.
Otherwise, you have no information.
Right. So then Kolshkin Bagi, then for sure you sold the fields. You sold you have to this is like something separate from the city. The Bagi for sure would be sold. Why? Because this guy walks around, but the fields don't walk around. We said that someone that walks around maybe isn't sold, right? You had to say specifically that he's sold. The Shimon says that he is sold. Now, if he's sold, if this talking about the town clerk is sold, then for sure the fields are sold. They're stationary. Bandamar Bagi, but the person that says that Santer means the fields, but who says that this town clerk is sold together with the city? Tanana was taught in the Mishnah and try to prove which way is correct. Beisa Badim, Beisa Shlachim. Sell together with the city. You sell the olive presses and the fields. Savrua, the Gemara understands, my shlachim, what are the fields? Bagi, they're fields. So if Beis HaShlachim means Bagi, that it's already sold with the field. Comes along Shimon Gamliel says, he says that you sell together with it the center. What's the center? The fields. So what's going on? But why Shlachim fields? It says, we have a pasuk that says that he pours water on the outsides, which is referring to the fields. If it's talking about the town clerk, not fields, Santa means the town clerk, then Amar Tanakama Bagi Mizdavni. The Tanna Kama holds that the fields are sold. Bar Machvanisa, the town clerk, Loim is Davin, is not sold. Also, he argues, he says, I feel a Bar Machvanisa Nami Misdavin, that the town clerk is also sold. Yeah, so it fits perfectly. Elamandam or Bagi, but if you say that Santa means Bagi means fields. Tanakam Nami Hachikamar. So the Tanakam also said that you sell fields. Why do we need Rav Shimon ben Gamliel to say that you sell fields when the Tanakam said already Beis Shlachim? The Gemara says, "My savage Shlachim Bagi." Do you really think that the Beis Shlachim is Bagi? Loi, that's not. It doesn't mean fields. My Shlachim. What is Shlachim? Nisa gardens, not fields. Shnemar Shalachayich Pardes Shimainim. What is Shalachayich? Shalachayich is like the cheek. No, that's the way the Gemara is translating it. But I think it means I think in the pasuk it meant like but I think Shalachayach in the original. Can I click on this? Let's see. Your least gifted ones are pomegranate orchards. That's Shalachayach. Your least gifted ones. That's the way they translated it.
You said least.
Least gifted.
Least.
Let's see if this opens up. Yeah, your least gifted ones are pomegranates. They don't give me any comments about it. They don't give me the art scroll. They just give me just the text. Yeah. Anyway, over here we're saying that it means a field. That's the way the Gemara is interpreting it. Aval Bagi, but fields, Lame is Davni, is not sold together with the city. Fields are outside the city. Also, Reb Shimon ben Gamliel says, I feel a Bagi Nam is Davni, that the fields are also sold together with the city. Ikadamri, those that say Savrua, that we understood. My Shalachin. In other words, we start from the end. The new Gemara starts from the end. Okay. So why Shlachin? What is Shlachin? We start from the beginning. We say Ginunisa. What is Shlachin? It means the gardens. We're on 68a. The bottom. If you say that center means Bagi, Amar Tanakama Ginunisa is Dabin Bagi Lemizdaben. The Tanakama holds that the gardens are sold together with the city, but the fields are not sold. Shimon ben Gamliel says that no, the fields are yes sold. But if you say that it's talking about the town clerk, so the Gemara is a little surprised about this conversation. Amar Tanakama, the Tanakama says Ginunisa, that the gardens are sold. Mahadle Rav Shimon ben Gamliel bar Machanisa, and Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says the town clerk is sold. It's a little surprised that he's telling him something that no one mentioned, and it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. He says the gardens are sold, and he responds to him, the town clerk is sold. No one mentioned the town clerk. The Gemara says, "Mi sabres." The Gemara explains, "Do you think my shlachim ginunisa? You think it means gardens? No, my shlachim bagi. It means the fields. But the town clerk, the person that knows where all the fields end, he's not sold." Gamliel says that no, town clerk is sold as well as the fields, so he knows where it is. You follow how this Gemara went? It flipped it back and then end up in the same place. He's a slave. Yeah. Yeah, that's the answer. Tashima, we're still looking for a proof. What does the word santer mean? That Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says is sold together with the field, sold together with the city. Doesn't mean a field. It doesn't mean the town clerk. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer. I'm going to try to figure out from what Rabbi Yehuda says. Rabbi Yehuda says, Santer eina macher. Santer is not sold. On kulmas, macher. But on kulmas is yes sold. Now, on kulmas sounds like the scribe, like the kulmas. Kulmas is the quill. So the city scribe is sold. He's a person that would probably writes down all the taxes. But the town clerk is not sold. My law, is it not? Midan kulmas gavra, santanami gavra. The fact that Rabbi Yehuda puts them both in one phrase, one sentence, says the santer is not sold, but the town scribe is sold. Sounds like the santer is another type of person. Must be the town clerk. So that would be a good proof. Umar says, Midi area, do you have to say that? Vakadisa, vakadisa. Each one was its own thing. He said this wasn't sold, this was sold. It doesn't have to be the both types of people, the both different jobs, different people. Could be that this was fields and this is the tax collector. Umar says, can you really say that? But if you go further, it says like this. It says, but you don't sell the shiarel. Let me just jump to the Gemara. My shiarel. What is the shiarel? Bisley. That's not that peanut butter snack. Oh, it's exactly the same word. Is Bisley with a Zion or how do they spell it in Hebrew? Oh, it's with a sama. How do they spell it in Hebrew? With a sama. Oh, yeah. It's a Yiddish. Is that where they got it from? Why is Bisley called Bisley? Because it's a abyssal. Maybe it's a bite. Maybe it's a bite. Abyss. Abyss is a bite. We have to talk to that little kid that's on this picture of the package. Anyway, my Bisley. What is Bisley? Bisley. Rababa says Piski Bagi. These are the fields that are not the regular fields. These are pieces of fields that are distant from the regular field because of hard rock that's in between them. So these are little spots of fields that are outside. Now, the Gemara explains the question. I have to go back and do some translation, but the Gemara explains the question. Bagi, when it comes to the actual fields, I'm sorry, Piski Bagi, these pieces of fields, Hudalim Mizdabin, that's not sold along with the city. Habagi Asman, but fields themselves, Mizdabin is sold. Mizdabni is sold. So you're trying to tell me now that the Santer is not sold. And what is Santer? The last possible translation the Gemara was giving us means that Santer means fields. So how could you say that the fields aren't sold, but it says the shiareh are not sold? And the shiareh are those pieces of fields. But that implies that actual fields are yes sold. So how could you say that the fields aren't sold? Oh, Daniel is telling us that Bisley means a bite for me. Bisley, bite for me. But bis means a bite in Hebrew. In Hebrew, bis means a bite. That's interesting. In Yiddish, it means a bite. How do you tell me a phrase where you say this in Hebrew? How do you say my brother bit me in Hebrew? Nashach. It must be the Yiddish. Maybe Yiddish took the Hebrew took it. The modern Hebrew took it from Yiddish. Okay. So the Gemara says, our question now is, how could you say the fields are not sold if it's implied that the fields are yes sold? So the Gemara answers, Eipa. You have to switch it around. The original phrase. Rabbi Yehuda Aimer Santer Mach. Rabbi Yehuda says that the Santer is yes sold. And what Santer? The fields. And what's sold also? And then the Gemara says Shiareh is not sold. That means that the pieces of field aren't sold, but the actual fields are yes sold on Kolmas, but the town describe, Eina Macher is not sold together with the city. Let's just go back. Let's go back to that what we quoted from the Brisa. The Seifa says, but not the pieces of the fields, not the villages. You know, sometimes in the Psukim it says, Tagelna b'nais Yehuda. You know, the daughters of Yehuda will rejoice. It doesn't mean daughters, it means the villages. Little cities surrounding an area in Hebrew called Banais. It means like the little towns around it. Not the villages, and not the forests that are designated for it. And not these are areas that contain wild animals, birds, and fish. Okay, that was not sold together with the city. Okay, so basically what we're holding now is that Rabbi Yehuda said that the center is sold. The Brisa says that Shiara is the pieces of land that are not attached to the fields are not sold, which implies that the fields themselves are yes sold. So we're very happy saying that Santer means fields, and that would fit with the how the Brisa continues. The only problem is, as the Gemara says, how can you say that Rabbi Yehuda holds like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? Because Rabbi Yehuda says that the Santer is sold, and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says the Santer is sold. The problem is, Tani Seifa, it says but not the villages and not those pieces of field. But as for Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he says that if you sell a city, you sell the little villages that are surrounding the city. The Tanya the Brisa says if you sell a city, you don't sell the villages. He says that if you sell a city, you do sell the villages. So Rabbi Yehuda can't hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Shimon ben Gamliel says you don't sell the villages, and I'm sorry, Rabbi Yehuda says you don't sell the villages. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says you do. So how could it be that when it comes to the fields, they both hold that you sell the fields when you sell the city? Unless what the Gemara is suggesting, that let's retranslate the word Santer to mean not fields, but it means the town clerk, the surveyor. The Gemara says no. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yehuda doesn't have to take sides against Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel in everything. It happens to be. He disagrees with him when it comes to the villages. He agrees with him when it comes to the fields. We said, how could Rabbi Yehuda hold like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel? He argues with him about this. But yeah, he argues with him about that, but he doesn't argue with him about the other thing. It's fine. Okay. In passing, we quoted this Brisa. So we go back to explain it. I should say like an Amar Mar. Ke'en Amar Mar. Rashbam adds it in, as if it says Amar Mar. Yeah. Viramini, we have a contradiction. If there are villages, it's not sold together with the city. If there was one part of the city that was in the sea, and one part was dry land, or bivrim shel chai v'shel shel dagim, or these enclosures where they have wild animals, birds and fish. It is sold together with the city. We said that it's not sold together with the city. We have a contradiction. Mar says like kasha. It's not a question. It depends where the opening is. If the opening is to the city, then it's sold together with the city. Here the opening is to outside the city. So then it's not sold together with city. But it says that they don't sell the forests that are designated to it. And over here we're saying that even if it's opened into the city, it's not sold. Bars that are designated for it to open into the city. When it says Ema hamuktzin himena, that are designated out of it, because it's open not to the city, it's open to the outside. That's not going to be sold together with the city. Okay, let's leave it over here. Yeah.
Was a courtyard. And then
With
they-
the store.
And then they added.
Yeah.